I'd like to begin with a little wisdom from one of our contemporary philosophers, Bobby McFerrin. Here's a little song I wrote. You might want to sing it note for note. Don't worry, be happy. In every life we have some trouble, but when you worry, you make it double. Don't worry, be happy. Ain't got no place to lay your head. Somebody came and took your bed. Don't worry. The landlord say your rent is late. He may have to litigate. Don't worry. Ain't got no cash, ain't got no style, ain't got no gal to make you smile. Don't worry. I'm glad to see that you guys all know your contemporary philosophers. It's a charming little tune, and on a day when you got the blues a little bit, you got up a little tired maybe or something, it works to kind of perk you up, And maybe if you're single and you don't happen to have your rent that month, that's all right. The song might get you through a day or two, But what if you're married with 3 children and can't make your house payment? Is Don't Worry going to be happy, going to get you through? Or what if you receive news from your doctor that you have a serious illness? Or what if your 12-year-old little girl is at the point of death? Don't worry, be happy starts to weaken. And we realize that's not enough. What does Jesus say? Jesus says, don't be afraid, just have faith. Even that, to our contemporary society, can sound a little bit Pollyannish. A little bit like you're in denial, maybe, just have faith, like you got your eyes closed and, somehow it'll work out. Or for those people who can't really get their own life together, maybe they close their eyes and hope God will do something for them, That's not what Jesus means. That's not having faith. If we think about this, what is faith? The letter to the Hebrews, the author there tells us that faith is the assurance of things hoped for. And I've talked to you about hope before, and try to talk about it periodically, because it's so ingrained in us to use the word hope as the world does, which is basically wish. I hope it doesn't rain today. I hope I win the lottery. That's not the theological virtue of hope. Hope is belief that the promises that God makes to us, He means to fulfill. Hope is believing in the good that God has promised us. And so to have faith is to reassure ourselves that God has promised us good and will give it to us. But faith comes when we don't see, and that's the second part of what the author to the Hebrews tells us, that faith is assurance of things hoped for. It's conviction of things not seen. And so it's precisely when we don't see that we need to have faith. And Jairus here is a good example. He doesn't see what Jesus is doing. He doesn't see what God wants to do through Jesus because he's looking with his regular eyes. And everyone around is looking with the regular eyes. They make fun of Jesus. Jesus says she's not dead, she's asleep. And of course, any person with a brain can look and say, no, she's dead, right? But faith is another kind of sight. And Jairus here, he's an example of what comes to all of us, right? So at every moment, we have a choice. Something bad and unexpectedly bad happens. We're sad, we're grieving over someone's death, we're worried about someone's impending death. We've been downsized, we've lost our job, we don't see our way clear. And we have a choice. We can just grieve or be sad or be worried or be angry or whatever, or we can have faith. And have faith there means something specific and something really solid. It doesn't mean just sit there and hope God does something before disaster really hits. It means to look, to ask, okay, God, what are you doing here? What do you want to do, Jesus? I believe in you. I know you're here. I can't see you, but I know you're here. See, now Jesus can do something with that. Jesus in the Gospels says when he can't do something, it's because people don't have faith. And this woman with the hemorrhage, she has faith, and so Jesus can heal her. He has something to work with, you know. And here's Jairus' choice. On the one hand, his daughter is dead. Or at least, what he knows for sure is that she's at the point of death. On the other hand, is this woman in front of him who's just been healed. On the one hand, Jairus has this message that has come to him: your daughter has died. Why trouble the master further? And on the other hand, the master is still standing here and he's still willing to go to Jairus' house. Does he say, Jesus, I'm so sorry to bother you, I know it's hopeless, and walk away? Or does he say, I don't know what you're going to do, but as long as you're willing and you're here, I'm going to stick with you, you know? And that's all of our choices. It's a decision we make. And here's the difference between don't worry, be happy, and don't be afraid, just have faith. Yes, choosing to look on the bright side, so to speak, or trying to be happy in the midst of trouble, that is a choice you can make. And certainly, you know, I agree with him that worry doesn't help. You've heard me say this before. If you have time to worry, you have time to pray. You know? And worry doesn't help a thing, it makes it worse. Praying helps, right? But here's where don't worry, be happy breaks down. How can you be happy when you're grieving? How can you be happy when your 12-year-old little girl is about to die? How do you be happy when you're not? But you can have faith in the midst of grief. You can have faith in the midst of sorrow and sadness. You can have faith when you're faced with illness. You can have faith when your friend has just hurt you badly, when you have trouble in your marriage. You can have faith. Because faith doesn't mean ignoring what's wrong, pretending it's not wrong. Faith means turning to Jesus and saying, this is wrong, help me. And I know you want to help me, and I know you can help me. I don't know how you're going to help me, but you're the one to whom I'm turning. Right? Jesus says to us in all these difficult moments of our lives, don't be afraid, just have faith. And so I speak to you as someone who still has to tell himself that as well. Right? But all of us, we experience these difficult, challenging, frightening, sad, worrying moments in our lives all the time. None of us are immune to them. The question is not whether we're going to experience them. The question is whether we're going to turn to Jesus in those, whether we're going to have faith. And so, whatever you're going through now or what you ever might be going through in the future, you can turn to Bobby McFerrin and let him tell you, don't worry. Or you can turn to Jesus and let Jesus say to you, do not be afraid.